In the early hours of October 10th, 1990, a shocking double murder took place in a quiet town of Oadby, Leicestershire. Two men, Gary Thompson and John Weston, were killed in a shooting incident outside the home of Gary and Mavis Thompson on Glen Road. The police suggested that Warren Slaney, alongside the victims, were involved in an armed robbery that had gone devastatingly wrong. As a result, Mr. Slaney was arrested and subsequently charged with the murders of Mr. Thompson and Mr. Weston. In 1992, he was handed a double life sentence. Despite this, Mr. Slaney has consistently declared his innocence, a claim that he still maintains to this day. Gary Thompson, who owned a string of hot dog and fast food vans, became the namesake for the case, which the press dubbed the hot dog murders. The assailant made off with approximately £60,000, leaving Mr. Thompson and Mr. Weston severely wounded from gunshot injuries, which they later died from. Mr. Slaney, on the other hand, claimed he was at a family party during the time of the shooting and stayed there till about 4:30 a.m. 9 witnesses corroborated this account, but despite their statements, Mr. Slaney was still charged with the murder and remained in custody until his trial. Several aspects of the case raised questions about Mr. Slaney's conviction. For instance, the physical description of the killer as provided by two eyewitnesses do not match Mr. Slaney. The perpetrator was described as being over 6 feet tall and in similar build to the victim, Gary Thompson. One of them was reportedly heavily built with a thick moustache, a ponytail and a hat. Mr. Slaney, on the contrary, is 5 foot 8 inches, had short hair at the time of the murders, and weighed between 9 and 10 stone. Moreover, crucial evidence that could have proven Mr. Slaney's innocence was apparently not presented at the trial. The defense attorney briefed the QC only 2 weeks before the trial, leaving insufficient time for adequate preparation for Mr. Slaney's defense. Out of the trial's duration, only 3 hours were allocated to the 9 defense witnesses, compared to the 8 days spent on the 3 prosecution witnesses. The Criminal Case Review Commission revisited Mr. Slaney's case and examined evidence, including testimony from new witnesses. Mr. Slaney's mother, Mavis, appealed to the public saying, "New witnesses have come forward, and if there's anybody out there who can help with our inquiries or knows anything about the murders of John Weston and Gary Thompson, then please come forward and help us to end this travesty of justice." Mr. Slaney continues to fight for his freedom, spending the past 21 years in a prison cell and often in solitary confinement, asserting his innocence throughout. The ordeal has also had a tremendous strain on his family, who have faced years of intimidation, including multiple death threats. On Saturday the 15th of October 2011, it marked the 21st anniversary of Warren Slaney being held in custody for a crime that he proclaims he did not commit. To mark the occasion, the family, friends and supporters gathered in Leicester City Centre and released 21 balloons, one for each year that he had been in prison. Amongst those present was Mr. Warren's son, Jake, who was a baby when his dad was taken into custody for the notorious hot dog murders of 1990. Jake is now a young man working as a fitness instructor, having growing up only ever seeing his dad on prison visits. The protesters will also hand in a letter to the leader of the city council, highlighting the cost of the Leicester taxpayers of keeping, in their words, a wrong man in prison, whilst the actual murderer remains unpunished for these crimes. Estimates of the cost of Mr. Warren's wrongful imprisonment well exceed £1 million. An application was made to the CCRC in 1999. Warren Slaney's case, whilst initially refused, was being re-examined by the CCRC following a recent discovery of new evidence. The campaign has brought support from Dr. Michael Norton of the Innocence Project, based at Bristol University. In 2002, Dr. Michael Norton conducted a report for the Miscarriage of Justice organisation, Mojo, and showed that miscarriages of justice were costing the public purse in excess of $200 million a year in the following 4 areas: the cost of imprisonment, legal aid, compensation, and the CCRC. This does not account for the other costs such as welfare payments for dependents and the loss of taxes that will have been paid into the public purse. Dr. Michael Norton said, "Every wrongful conviction has far-reaching implications for us all. The total waste for the public resources in today's terms amount to in excess of £1 million, and it is rising. It is certainly an aspect of miscarriages of justice that is largely overlooked. The scale of the problem indicates that each case must be investigated thoroughly. A conservative estimate for Warren Slaney's case stands at well of excess of £1 million in his trial, appeal and police investigation. You may wonder what this means to you. People aren't aware just how much public money is being absorbed by miscarriages of justice. Money that could be better used on services such as education, health, and provisions for the elderly. West Midlands Against Injustice, Innocence Manchester, and the Innocent Project Bristol are all supporting Warren Slaney. Some of the points being raised by those seeking a retrial for Mr. Slaney is: the physical descriptions given by eyewitnesses do not match Warren Slaney's appearance. Witness 1 said that the perpetrators were over 6 foot and the same build as Gary Thompson, who was about 21 stone. Witness 2 said that one was 6'6", broad, heavily built, with a dark tan, a big moustache, a hat and a ponytail. Warren Slaney is 5'8", white, clean shaven, and had very short hair. At the time he weighed between 9.5 and 10 stone. 9 witnesses were with Mr. Warren at a party until 4:30 AM on the morning of the murders. A crucial prosecution witness testified in court that she had falsified her statement to the police. This statement implicated Warren Slaney directly in the robbery. The man who disposed of the gun admitted that Mr. Slaney had nothing to do with the murders, and this statement was not used in court. Warren was accused of firing the Beretta handgun which killed the 2 men. Shots fired displayed a great degree of accuracy. Mr. Warren had previously suffered hand injuries, which resulted in insertions of metal plates. He would not have been capable of such an act because he would not have been capable of pulling the trigger. This medical evidence was never used by the defense. There was no forensic evidence to link Mr. Warren to the murders, although the police searched his home 4 times. Warren Slaney, who has spent over 21 years in jail protesting his innocence for the infamous hot dog murders of 1999, has now been told that the CCRC has agreed to re-examine the conviction of the alleged hitman. The review has been prompted by evidence suggesting that a key witness who helped incriminate the then 24-year-old Mr. Slaney and was subsequently relocated by the police and may have received a reward for her testimony, something that was never disclosed at the trial. Mr. Slaney and another man, Terence Berg, were sentenced to life for the murders of the fast food tycoon Gary Thompson and his business associate John Weston. Mr. Thompson had built a multi-million-pound business from his fleet of hot dog and burger vans, which raked in huge sums of money at rock festivals and sporting events. Known by many as the Burger King, with a reputation for intimidating rivals, Mr. Thompson had inevitably made some enemies on his rise to the top of the burger van business. In 1990, when he was found with 3 bullet wounds and with his days taking of around £60,000 missing, when the police arrived, they put his death down to a robbery that had gone terribly wrong. At the height of what became known as the hot dog wars, and in a scene straight out of a mafia movie, a pig's head was dumped outside one of the rivals' houses. Several friends and family of Mr. Slaney, who was a boxer and a nightclub bouncer, said he was at a party at the time of the killings, but he was convicted after Mr. Berg and another man, who admitted conspiracy to rob, had blamed Mr. Slaney for the shootings. Another witness put Mr. Slaney in the company of Mr. Berg, trying on masks immediately before the murders, and said he had later boasted about them. It is this witness who is subject to the new CCRC review. Mr. Slaney's lawyer, Mansland Merchant, says there was no forensic evidence linking his client to the crime, and no test performed to match a partial fingerprint found on the murder weapon. And on the top of that, Mr. Slaney's slight frame did not match the figure described in the original eyewitness accounts of the shooting. Mr. Slaney's case has now been taken up by the University of Bristol Innocent Project, where law students investigate claims of injustice. As the CCRC looks at the possibility of rewards and incentives for witness in this murky gangland case, the only clear fact is that it is far from a simple bungled robbery that was depicted at Mr. Slaney's trial. However, there is an alternative theory to what happened that night. Instead of it being a robbery that had gone wrong, there have been claims that it was an international hit by an Iraqi nightclub owner, Ramzi Kachik. Posters went up in Leicester implicating Mr. Kachik in the murders. He was also accused of being behind threats, shootings, and attacks on other catering vans that tried to move in on Mr. Thompson's old patch after his death. Mr. Kachik belonged to a gun club, had firearm convictions, and was questioned by the police about about the murders because his car had been spotted at the scene 2 hours before the crime. Subsequent police taps on his phones relating to other crimes record him boasting about how important it is to case an area well in advance. Mr. Kachik was asked about his involvement in the hot dog murders by Sean Atwood on his True Crime podcast. He had this to say about his involvement.
You were accused of being involved in hot dog murders. What was that about?
There was a guy that did hot dog concessions. His name was Gary. He used to supply, mobile food things, concessions to the great big music festivals and things. So he could take £150,000 in a weekend.
Wow.
Which was all cash.
Nice.
And he was robbed. And what happened, one of the people involved shot two of them, sort of just executed them. I don't think it was necessary. But when it happened, the guys eventually got nicked for it actually used to work for me. Well, they did work for me. One of them used to work for me, sort of on and off, and the other two did. So when this happened, somebody came up to me and said, the police visited me, and they reckon that you killed that guy, hot dog man. You killed him. So that I killed him? I said, yeah, they're telling everyone that they're interviewing that you did it. So we ended up all getting arrested twice. And then there's no charges on me because, first of all, I did it. Then they wanted to say I arranged it. Then they want to say I supplied the gun, and then they said I supplied the packed lunch. It just kept going down and down. He must have supplied something.
Conspiracy.
Yeah, the conspiracy thing. Yeah, and the guys got done for it, but the guy that was the driver, he went QE against them, and I all got embroiled in that. What happened was there was a guy called, and I'll name this prick. He was a police informer. And if anyone fucking wants to contradict that, I've got his fucking interview tapes, at home. So he's a fucking grass. He decided to become agent provocateur with the police to try to rile me into saying something that could probably get me in trouble. And this went on for ages. He's ringing the house, and there was posters for the murders that they were putting out. So, does anyone know who murdered this guy? And he doctored them and just put Ramsey Kachik killed Gary Thompson, and put them up all over the place. I think what it was, he should have been with Gary that night, and he thought he got in his twist because he was on drugs and everything. He decided in his own mind, and he also was a hot dog man as well, that it was a hit on him and this Gary. And he just got that into his head, and he thought if he made enough noise around it, I won't be able to get him, because he thought I were going to get him. But I did terrorise him a bit, but I didn't do anything about it because he didn't scare me. I knew he wasn't a danger to me, as a person. Otherwise, I would have had to have done something about it. But he made some serious threats, and the police said that there were people wanted to, kill me and stuff. And
But you did end up getting busted, and that was for having guns and drugs in the house. How did that arrest come about?
It was Sam actually got arrested, and she got stitched up by a friend's boyfriend. He asked if she could get him a bit of whiz, and I always had little bits of, because I was doing the raves and doing the doors, and I had an all-night nightclub, and you'd take stuff off people, and I just had bits of my pocket. She just thought she was doing him a favour, and he grassed her up.
Oh, that's right.
So they could really basically get to the house. There was no drugs or anything in there, only those little bits. There's a little bit of acid in there, but nothing of any consequence. But I had a gun, a loaded gun, and a loaded shotgun. Shotgun had a license for it, but the gun I didn't. And the reason I had it in the house because the police had been to me twice and told me that there was a hit out on me, and they actually said you need to have something in the house to protect yourself because it's a serious threat that you're going to get shot, and that's why I had the gun in the house. And then I got 5 years for that.
And did they tell you the motive for the hit out on you?
No.
No.
Warren Slaney is a former professional boxer from the United Kingdom, and he was active in the super lightweight division between 1985 and 1988. He stands at 5'7" and is a native of Leicester, Leicestershire, where he also resided in a boxing career. Slaney's professional boxing record stands at 1 win and 4 losses and offers no draws, with 1 knockout to his name. His fight history is as follows. On October the 17th, 1985, he made his professional debut against Split Dwyer, who at the time had a record of 1 win and no losses. The fight took place at De Montfort Hall, Leicester. Mr. Slaney lost the bout by points decision, and the referee was Frank Parks. His second fight was against Paul Wetter on the 6th of November 1985. Mr. Wetter had a record of 2 wins, 11 losses and 1 draw. The match took place at the Marine Ballroom in Evesham. Mr. Slaney lost again by a points decision, and the referee was Paul Thomas. Mr. Slaney won his first and only professional fight on the 24th of February 1988. He faced Whipper Dean, who had no wins and 2 losses at the time. The fight took place at De Montfort Hall, Leicester, and Mr. Slaney won by technical knockout. TKO. The referee for this bout was John Keane. Slaney's 4th professional fight was against Mark Kelly on March the 21st, 1988. Mr. Kelly had a record of 3 wins, 1 loss and no draws. The match was held at the Holiday Inn, Leicester. Mr. Slaney lost by technical knockout. The referee was again John Keane. His final fight took place on March the 17th, 1988 against Tony Foster, who had a record of 5 wins, 9 losses and 1 draw. The bout was held at the Belgrave Working Man's Club in Leicester. Mr. Slaney lost by a points decision, and the referee was again John Keane. Mr. Slaney had fought a total of 20 rounds over his career, with a knockout percentage of 20%. Warren Slaney has been described by many as one of the most fearsome and dangerous prisoners in the Cathay prison system, which in the UK is the highest security prison you can be in, mixed with some of the most dangerous criminals in the country. It appears that Mr. Slaney's reputation far exceeds himself, and many have shared their experience of knowing him or just being around him whilst being incarcerated themselves. Here are a few stories from other YouTubers who have shared their experience.
You've got Warren Slaney. Everybody in the system, or just about everybody, knows Warren Slaney or who he is. If you haven't met him, you'll have heard of him. He is right up there at the top as being one of the hardest in the system, because everybody knows him in the category A's, and the majority of people are actually scared of him or in fear of him because he's got that much of a reputation and he's that much of a fighter. In his earlier years before he went to prison, he was actually a boxer. So that's where he's gained his skills doing boxing. And when he's come into the system and he's been fighting, he's fought his way through the system. He's still, I'm forgetting exactly, he's nearly coming up to 30 years as a category A prisoner for a murder that he didn't commit. Warren is from Leicestershire. Everybody down in Leicestershire knows Warren, and he's got a big name down there. So Warren is definitely up there as one of the hardest men in the category A system.
Gary Nelson and Warren Slaney had a big fallout. I think it was in Long Lawton where they had the first fight. I don't know the full ins and outs of that one, but I remember Warren was in Franklin, he was on G wing. Gary Nelson landed on my wing. And I remember they were both arguing through the fence, because on the exercise yard, you've got G wing. On this side, you've got F wing here. There's a walkway in the middle, and there's 2 fences separating the 2 yards. But obviously, you can see through and talk through the fence. And this day, we were walking around the yard. Gary Nelson shouting over to Warren, Warren shouting back, and they're both griefing each other. And I remember Gary Nelson shouting over to Warren, which antagonised Warren even more. Warren shouted over, "You just got it because you got done in off a black man." and he's griefing him, and Warren's at the fence, shaking the fence, going crazy, saying, I'm going to fucking kill you when I get you down the gym. And we were walking around the yard, everyone quiet as a mouse. Everyone just stopped talking, just listening to what was being said backwards and forth. And like I say, Gary Nelson ended up getting moved because of an altercation on the wing. He got put down the block. And then there was a bit of a riot on G-Wing. It was the Muslim lads against... I was going to say like the lads from down south, but I suppose it was all of them. It was like the white lads, the Muslims against the white lads. And when I'm talking about the Muslims, I'm talking about like black lads as well that have converted to Islam. And everyone was just fighting on the wing. Warren laid a few of the lads out. And I'm sure a couple of people ended up getting slashed. I'm not, obviously because I was on F-Wing, we didn't know what was going on properly. But that's what happened on that wing. It went off big style and then everyone was getting moved about. And then not long after,
So after all these months, you lot from Leicester, right? You finally get your wish. And you lot, the great Warren Slaney supporters, you get what Yami knows. One of you said to me the other day, right? You said, Yami, you don't like Slaney, do you? No. At the end, I didn't really like him. There's some things that bothered me. I didn't get it, but I told him. I'll explain to you when we get to the end of the story. But I'll break it down from the beginning. Warren Slaney is one of the greatest warlords that ever walked through the Cathays in history. That is fact. You can't get away from that. All the big names you never had your one of your altercations, but I saw little things in mixes and little exchanges in letters and words that meant that you didn't really want to fight. You wouldn't want to really tangle with him. In his 20s and 30s, he was unbeaten. No, you got to talk the truth. You got to talk the truth. Everyone fell over. That is a fact, right? In later years, the last few, coming when he was in his 40s, we're talking about 2000 onwards kind of thing. You started to have a few close ones, and then you got caught slipping. And in an instant of you never hitting the deck, the legend became kind of a bit mythical. But you all got to get old, like he always says. Yami, older, younger, fitter, but no matter what, I'll still have it. No matter what. He's not stupid, Warren. He knows what it is. What hurt him the most? Let's get the facts right. It starts from the court case. The 2 hot dog murders. Right. During that time Warren was out, there was a lot of problems in nightclubs, demand ups, allegedly. He was throwing it around. They was worried they wanted to get rid of him. There was a lot of stuff going on. They were shook of him. You know that. Everybody knows that in Leicester, that when he was around, it was real problems. When he got the bird, and remember he got convicted. Remember he had a all right, not bringing colour into anything. He had a black Cody, right? So the story goes, which I don't get, because I've seen him knock over white people as well, white geezers as well, is that every man that was black, he wanted to fight him because his Cody grasped him and went Queen's evidence and turned against him because of the feds. That's what they done to him. They railroaded him. It is fact. It is facts. I don't care what anyone says. They could say, but I'm telling you what I know. And if I tell you, I'm going to tell you exactly what I read with my own eyes and my conversations and my natural ability to look at what he could be lying and what could be facts and what could be fiction. Do you see what I'm saying? But I tell you what, it hurt him bad. The double life hurt him bad. No, he didn't. He wanted to get back out, Warren. Warren was a ladies' man, He got girls. Warren got girls. He used to get loads of girls. He used to like going out. He used to like his old 80s stuff, his things. He said, Yami, play that again for me. He loved me. right? But the only thing is, them lot thought that he was not bullying me, but they thought I was a bit in fear of him because no one used to like sitting with him because of his character and the funny things he says, and he comes out with some silly things and blah, but I used to shout, Yammy, 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 and everybody used to be hiding and saying, Yammy, he wants you downstairs, because you know that to have me with him, his afternoon's going to be all right, but he'll sit at the dinner table on his own or whatever, and he won't call for no one. But people walk past and all he ever says is, don't like him. That's it. That's the way it was, right?
For over 2 decades, Warren Slaney has maintained his innocence of the infamous hot dog murders that took place in 1990 in Oadby in Leicestershire. He and another man, Terence Burt, were convicted of the murders of the fast food tycoon Gary Thompson and his associate John Weston. 2 victims were found shot dead in Mr. Thompson's front garden and £60,000 had been stolen. His death was claimed to have been the result of a botched robbery. Mr. Slaney was convicted after Mr. Burke and another man who admitted to conspiracy to rob gave evidence for the prosecution that Mr. Slaney was the one who committed the shootings. In addition, another witness also claimed to have seen Mr. Slaney with Mr. Burke shortly before the shootings and claimed that he had boasted to others about the attacks. Mr. Slaney had a cast iron alibi. He was seen by several friends at a family party at the time of the murders. Further, he does not match the descriptions of the original counts by eyewitnesses who described the attackers as over 6 foot and heavily built, over 20 stones. Mr. Slaney was 5'8" and weighed 9 to 10 stones. The man who disposed of the gun admitted that Warren had nothing to do with the murders. This statement was not used in court. There was no forensic evidence linking Mr. Slaney to the murders despite his flat being searched 4 times by police. In 2010, the CCRC refused Mr. Slaney's application. His case is currently being investigated by the Winchester Innocence Project. While it is true that there isn't much public information about Warren Slaney's life prior to his boxing career and subsequent conviction of murder, we do know that he was a father, professional boxer and a nightclub bouncer. The era in which Mr. Slaney lived was different from today, with less of an online presence to leave a digital footprint, making it difficult to construct a comprehensive portrait of his life prior to his conviction. Only those involved in the case, close family and friends, will ever know if Mr. Slaney did have prior convictions. But to finish up the documentary, we will share a comment which was left on an online forum dedicated to discussing Mr. Slaney's innocence, and it provides a different perspective on the matter. It was left by the user named M. Thompson USA on the 12th of July 2018, and they said the following: I find it strange that this article about Warren Slaney doesn't mention that a month before he was charged, he had murdered 2 men and he was up in court on a robbery charge at a petrol station, but the cashier knew him and was too scared to say anything, so the case had to be dismissed. But the judge said to him, if you don't mend your wicked evil ways, you will be back in court in the not too distant future on a murder charge. So let's see you put that in your report. If you're looking to learn more about the Warren Slaney case or show him support, an address for mailing him in the prison has been shared online. You can find this address in the provided description below. Remember, when writing to someone, it is important to follow all the rules and regulations of the prison.